It began, as many great archaeological stories do, with a mistake. In the summer of 1998, a team of geologists from the University of Bergen set out to map ancient river terraces in a remote valley in Central Asia. Their mission had nothing to do with humans. They were looking for signs of glacial retreat, the telltale lines of sediment that reveal where ice once stood thousands of years ago. The valley was quiet, its silence broken only by the crunch of boots on gravel and the occasional hiss of wind through tall grass. The team's lead geologist, Dr. Henrik Voss, was studying a cross-section of rock when his assistant stumbled, literally, into history. Her boot caught on something buried just beneath the soil. When she brushed away the dirt, a smooth, blackened piece of flint caught the light dot at first. They assumed it was just another stone, washed down from the cliffs above. But it was sharp, too sharp, and it had been worked, deliberately chipped into the unmistakable shape of a cutting blade. That was the moment the geologists realized they'd wandered into an entirely different story. They radioed the discovery to the nearest archaeological department. Within a week, a new team arrived, specialists in Paleolithic human sites. Over the following months, the site revealed itself piece by piece, a ring of fire pits, clusters of stone tools, fragments of bone carefully scraped clean of meat. And yet, something felt wrong. Usually, ancient campsites bear the scars of time. Bones are scattered by animals, tools are dulled, fire pits are eroded. But here, everything seemed eerily frozen, as though the people had left in the middle of preparing a meal. And then came the most unsettling detail. There were no human remains. None. Then the archaeological record. Absence can be more haunting than presence. The team dug deeper, expecting to find at least a few bones buried under centuries of sediment. Instead, they found only more artifacts, unfinished spear points, a child's carved figurine, a pile of fish bones left half-cooked. It was as if the entire clan had stood up one morning, left their tools on the ground, and vanished into thin air. The question was no longer what had been found. The question was, where did they go? Before we can unravel their disappearance, we need to understand who they were. The tools told part of the story. The flint blades were expertly made, sharp, symmetrical, and often retouched to prolong their life. This wasn't the work of crude, unskilled foragers. These people understood their craft. They also used bone needles, suggesting they stitched clothing from hides, a sign of adaptation to cold climates. Charcoal from the fire pits was carbon dated to roughly 28,000 years ago, placing the clan in the Upper Paleolithic period, when Homo sapiens was spreading across Eurasia. The valley itself was a gift and a trap. Rich in water and game, it was a natural gathering place for reindeer, wild horses, and bison. The nearby river teemed with salmon in the spring. The caves along the cliff face offered shelter from storms. But isolation also meant vulnerability. From the size of the campsite, archaeologists estimate the group numbered between 25 and 40 individuals, a small extended family, perhaps 2 or 3 related households. They would have hunted cooperatively, shared food communally, and passed down knowledge orally. And then there were the carvings. Inside a nearby cave, the team found faint ochre-red figures painted on the wall. Most depicted animals, horses, mammoths, ibex, but one stood out. A row of small, human-like figures, holding hands, facing what looked like a tall, looming shape. Was it a predator? A spirit? A memory of something they'd witnessed? It was impossible to say. But one thing was clear: this clan had an inner life as rich as their physical survival. They were storytellers as well as hunters, and whatever fate befell them, it would have struck at the heart of a close-knit, resourceful people. The ground keeps secrets, but it also leaves clues. Soil samples from the site revealed unusual patterns. Around the fire pits, the ash layers ended abruptly, suggesting they stopped burning fires suddenly, not gradually. The refuse piles, where bones and broken tools usually accumulate, were also incomplete. It was as though they hadn't finished living there. In one spot, a cluster of spear points lay on the ground, their shafts missing. Nearby, a child's footprints, small, only about 16 centimeters long, were preserved in hardened mud, leading away from the camp and then stopping. Archaeologists debated whether flooding might have washed away part of the site, but sediment layers told a different story. There was no sign of catastrophic erosion. The footprints were preserved because the ground had dried and hardened soon after they were made. In a shallow pit, they found something stranger, a pile of stones arranged in a rough spiral. Underneath was the skull of a wolf, jaw open, teeth bared, Some researchers suggested it might have been a ritual object, perhaps a talisman or offering. What could drive a people to leave so abruptly, without taking their possessions, yet with time to bury a wolf skull in a symbolic pattern? The mystery deepened with every spade of dirt. The simplest explanation is often the most likely. One theory suggests sudden conflict. Another tribe could have attacked, forcing the clan to flee. But if that were true, where were the signs of battle? The broken weapons, the bodies, the burned shelters? None were found. Another possibility is disease. A fast-moving illness could have wiped out most of the group, prompting survivors to abandon the site. But again, no graves, no remains, no evidence of mass death. Starvation possible. A bad hunting season could have forced them to leave. But their departure seemed too abrupt for a slow-burn famine. Then there's the climate. Around this time, Europe and Asia were experiencing abrupt cold snaps during the last glacial maximum. If the valley suddenly froze, game would vanish, and so might its human inhabitants. And yet something about the site still whispered of urgency, not a slow migration, a sudden, decisive break. Sometimes the land itself turns against you. Geological surveys revealed that the valley sits on a fault line. A moderate earthquake could have struck without warning. If rockfalls blocked the only pass into the valley, the clan might have been forced to leave quickly, before they ran out of food. There's also evidence of flash flooding in the wider region. Though not directly in the campsite layer, a near miss could still have frightened them into leaving. But the most compelling environmental clue came from pollen analysis. Around the time they vanished, the valley saw a sudden drop in plant diversity, a sign that something disrupted the ecosystem. Some scientists suspect volcanic ash from a distant eruption settled here, poisoning the plants and driving away animals. If so, the sky might have darkened, the air turned bitter, and the clan faced an impossible choice: stay and starve, or walk into the unknown. Not all theories are comfortable. Local legends, passed down for generations, speak of the shadow hunters, tall, silent beings, who came from the mountains and took people away at night. Some say they were spirits. Others believe they were an unknown predator, a remnant from an earlier age. A few researchers, treading into controversial territory, have speculated about encounters with Neanderthal or Denisovan groups. While contact between human species is well documented, the idea that one wiped out or absorbed another in such a way is harder to prove. Then there are the fringe ideas, stories of lights in the sky, of a calling that lured people away. While science offers no proof for such claims, they persist in the local imagination. Whatever the truth, the fact remains: this clan didn't just leave, they left without returning, and something about their departure felt final. The oldest stories are often the hardest to kill. In villages, hundreds of miles from the site, elders still tell a tale of the people of the Red Hands, a group who lived in the valley and painted their caves with ochre. One night, they say, a great wind came from the north, carrying voices. In the morning, the people were gone. Another legend speaks of a bargain gone wrong, that the clan had angered the spirit of the river by taking too many fish, and were claimed as payment. While such myths can't be taken as literal truth, they may preserve fragments of real events: a windstorm, a sudden migration, a natural disaster interpreted through the lens of belief. Without bodies, DNA evidence is tricky, but not impossible. A few bones from hunted animals bore microscopic traces of human saliva, likely from butchering or chewing to soften sinew. From these traces, scientists managed to extract partial genetic profiles. When compared to modern populations, the DNA showed faint similarities to isolated groups in Siberia and Mongolia. This suggests the clan's descendants might have merged with other bands, carrying fragments of their lineage into the present. If true, the disappearance wasn't an extinction, it was an absorption. The clan may have vanished as a distinct group, but their blood still flows through living people today. Picture it: the air grows colder, the herds no longer come. A strange dust falls from the sky, coating the river in an oily film. Food runs low. At night, strange noises echo from the cliffs too deep for human throats. One morning, the elders decide, we leave now. They pack what they can carry: spears, furs, the carved figurine for the child. They leave behind the heavy things: grinding, stones, extra hides, unfinished tools. Fires burn low, untended. The child with the small footprints runs ahead, chasing the others toward the pass. Behind them, the valley falls silent again, and they never come back. Today, the valley is empty. Grass grows where fires once burned. The wind moves through the stones as it did before humans ever came. But the mystery remains. We may never know exactly why the clan vanished. But their story lingers in the artifacts they left behind, in the DNA of distant descendants, in the myths told by strangers who somehow remember them. Perhaps that is the true legacy of the lost, not the fact of their disappearance, but the questions they left us to ask. And as long as we keep asking, they are not entirely gone.